Welcome, and thank you for tuning in. If you enjoy this video, we invite those of you who haven't yet done so, to like, comment, share, subscribe, and click the notification icon, to be notified when the next one is uploaded. We'd also like to urge those of you who haven't yet done so, to sign our online petition for an inquiry into the BBC and Channel 4's coverage of Lewis Hamilton and Abu Dhabi, which we have amended to include Gary Lineker's sacking by the BBC. A link has been provided in the description. If you are on X, then please repost our tweet. Thank you. Well folks, it was 2 weeks last Wednesday that Christian Horner was summarily dismissed after the British GP. And now on the eve of the following GP in Belgium, barely a whisper of his name. Yet, before his exit, he was the longest-serving team principal of his era, the highest paid, and one of the most successful in F1 history, with 6 constructors and 7 drivers' world titles. Interestingly, like us, ChatGPT only attributes 7 drivers' titles to his tenure, notably 4 for Vettel and 3 for Verstappen. Looks like Abu Dhabi is not as dead and buried as some would like to think. As our friend James has said in his comeback video, only time will tell, and those at Liberty Media and Red Bull who think that the matter of Abu Dhabi is dead and buried need to think again. Welcome back, James. Things will eventually get fixed good and proper. Now, going back to Christian, who holds the dubious honor of being the first and only team principal to have been sacked in the middle of the season following a championship win. He is also the only one listed on the ChatGPT table of notable team principals to have been sacked. It took a brutal boardroom battle to remove Ron Dennis. John Todt left Ferrari voluntarily and transitioned into other roles within motorsport, including as FIA president and outside motorsport as UN Special Envoy for Global Governance. Frank Williams left voluntarily after selling the team, and Colin Chapman died suddenly while in office. Despite a clear drop in performance even worse than that of Christian's, Toto was not sacked even after his own admission that the team took a wrong turn with the zero-pod design for the new ground effect era. So, it is unprecedented and counterintuitive that Horner would be summarily dismissed in the middle of the season immediately following a championship-winning one. What makes his employers so sure that he will be unable to turn things around? Or what was so bad that they had to place him on gardening leave without any notice, after clearing him of sexual misconduct? Could it be that sky-high sexual misconduct committed in the air is not actionable on land? Or there were questions about the provenance of the text messages? There has to be a reason why someone with Christian's illustrious track record on paper wasn't moved upstairs into some honorary position at Red Bull or in F1, where the sport could continue enjoying his contribution on how to build a winning team and nurture a safe working environment. Under the circumstances, one would ordinarily have expected public and media interest in his sudden and unexplained sacking to have matched or surpassed that in his sexual harassment scandal that overshadowed the beginning of last season. One would have expected lamestream and social media to be awash with conflicting reports of why he was removed. One would have expected those lamestream talking heads who rallied around him when he robbed Sir Lewis in Abu Dhabi in 2021, and rubbed himself silly as he was sexually harassing his PA last year, to continue rubbing along with him. At the very least, some of those who did everything they could to gaslight his and Red Bull's toxicity would have mounted a robust defense, like Bernie tried to do before he was called to order. They could have put up the type of defense they did after he and his team were roundly booed at this season's launch event. Now, who has the power to curtail the media's liberty? Certainly not Red Bull. One would have expected their publicity-hungry former team boss and unrepentant Lothario to have put on the type of display that he and his wife did last season, as they attempted to represent that they were standing strong in the face of malicious and unfounded sexual harassment allegations. But shockingly, in stark contrast, she has said nothing publicly about his sacking, while he has restricted himself to his farewell message. It is most interesting indeed to see that having put so much effort into facing down the very credible sexual harassment allegations, they have surrendered to the most incredulous sacking ever in F1 history. Ironically, both Christian and his accuser are now on indefinite gardening leave at Red Bull. What are the chances of them doing some gardening together? So, Christian now has the dubious honor of adding being the only team boss to have been accused of sexual harassment in the workplace, to that of being the only team boss to have been sacked in the middle of the season following a championship-winning one, after having been cleared of any sexual misconduct. Under these circumstances, one would have expected highly publicized and carefully staged appearances, where he would talk all about his time at Red Bull but respectfully decline to speak on his exit because terms were yet to be finalized. One would have expected a media scrum for his first interview, appearance, book, documentary, or whatever, after his sacking, but alas, nothing. No Christian Horner spills the beans. No Christian confesses. Christian Horner breaks his silence. Christian Horner tells all about Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen, Abu Dhabi, and his sacking. Christian Horner reveals all. Christian Horner sets the record straight. Nothing, not a damn thing. Not even on Netflix's Drive to Survive. Why is one of the biggest whingers ever in F1 history going out with such a whimper? Was he placed on gardening leave to gag him, while wicked rumors are doing the rounds about him? Is it karma or schadenfreude, that the king of gaslighting is going out in a blaze of gaslighting? His former friends and allies are now in the front line of the gaslighting efforts to put his exit down to the incredulous notion that the highest paid, and one of the most successful team bosses ever in the history of the sport, was sacked without notice in the middle of the season following a championship-winning one because of poor performance. Some of our regulars may recall that we have repeatedly shown how the BBC as the world's biggest news source was at the center of the gaslighting of the Abu Dhabi robbery. How they featured the likes of Andrew Benson and David Coulthard in leading programs like the Roz Atkins explainer video to falsely represent that Marcy had some authority to rig the race. That BBC video was coming out on top of search results for information on the event at that time, alongside what the official gaslighters like Martin Brundle were putting out through F1's official broadcaster Sky, after gaslighting the robbery in real time. Well, lo and behold, both Sky and BBC were coming out on top of search results for information on Christian Horner, with content claiming or suggesting that he was sacked because of poor performance. Ouch. Karma, schadenfreude, or what? The same people that have led the way in gaslighting for Christian are now the same people gaslighting against him. The BBC and Sky leading the gaslighting with reports about McLaren's Zak Brown's claims that he was not surprised by the sacking. Reports suggesting counterintuitively that the sacking was possibly due to poor performance, even though Red Bull never gave a reason. Many of you will recall that Zak Brown was the main cheerleader for gaslighting on behalf of Michael Masi back in 2021, as McLaren jumped to his defense, and we have always maintained that their current position as the replacement FIA-enabled frontrunners since last year was their reward. Now that they have replaced Red Bull, it is only fitting that they be called upon to gaslight Horner's inglorious exit. Who has the power to bend the lamestream media to their will? Or coordinate leading team principals to make statements that mysteriously go viral? It is certainly not Red Bull, so who could it be? Only time will tell if they can continue to suppress the media's liberty indefinitely. But nevertheless, no one is shedding any tears over the suppression of Christians. Forza Ferrari.